So I want to welcome you all back. Because there may be people who are joining us for the first time, I'll just introduce myself. My name is Peter Geffen. I'm the founder and president of Kivunim. To know more about Kivunim, you can go to kivunim.org if you want to learn more about us. But this series was designed to try and accomplish a relatively simple goal. The language that we used in our initial presentation was from a quote by my teacher, Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel: "What lends meaning to history? The promise of the future." And the sessions that we've had have really aimed, and particularly in the coming weeks, you'll hear more, to introduce you to people who I would call agents of social change, people who are making a difference in these very difficult times and who demonstrate the reality of what Heschel was saying, that when you talk about what was and even what is, you are embodying the promise of the future. You're allowing us to glimpse what might be, what could be. And in many ways, this week, talking about Morocco with the participation of Andrea Azoulay, who has joined us also today, and what you're going to hear today from our two speakers is very much rooted in a piece of that promise, the specific experience that we have seen, Kivunim has learned about and begun to understand in Morocco, but with the implication that what takes place in Morocco isn't left in Morocco, that what takes place in Morocco has implications and real teaching for us, particularly in the United States, but obviously around the world. Our two speakers today, when I met them, they were actually really young people. They were college students at Akhawayn University in Ifrane. And we were complete strangers a little over a decade ago. And I think I speak certainly from my own heart and for myself, and Laziza and Mehdi can either agree or disagree, that today we feel like we're members of the same family, even though they are Moroccan young people and I'm an American old person. They're a Muslim in religion. I am a Jew. One of the most powerful experiences that the three of us had with a larger group together was when they became and were part of the first delegation of Arab youth to come officially to the State of Israel and to participate and to learn firsthand of both the issues, the problems, and the successes that the State of Israel represents. But beyond that, we've built together a universe of remarkable discourse about the Moroccan experience. And I asked them to talk today specifically about their creation when they were college students of what is now called Association Mimouna. When they created it, they called it by the Hebrew name Moadon Mimouna, the Mimouna Club. And they're going to tell you about it. And Laziza and Mehdi, you can decide who should go first, but where I'd like you to start is to explain to this audience, because remember, most of the people on this call don't know anything at all about you, how it is possible, why it is that you as young college students on a college campus in an Arab country would decide that you needed to create an organization to study and then teach about Moroccan Jewish history, Moroccan Judaism, even in those early years, the Hebrew language. It just sounds so extraordinary to us when we hear it. So I think that would be a great place for us to begin. And in talking about it, I hope you'll include your own, sort of personal background that will make it a little bit clearer. So whichever of you is going first, I turn it over to both of you, one of you, and we look forward to hearing from you. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Peter. First of all, I want to thank you for your continuous support to Mimouna since day one, like since 2010. But also to your personal support to me and to Laziza and to the other members of Mimouna. Since Mr. Andrea Azoulay is with us, I want to thank him because without his support, he's one of the few leaders who give the opportunity to the young people to like share their story and try to become better. And I want also to thank Mr. Simon Keslasi and the Jewish community of Toronto for their continuous support to Mimouna. But before starting and responding to your question, Peter, I just want to share and to give the background why Mimouna is existing. You know, the roots of the Jewish community here in Morocco goes back to the antiquity. And in the 50s, the Jewish population in Morocco reached 300,000 Jews in Morocco. It was the biggest non-Ashkenazi community in the world and the biggest Jewish community in the Muslim world. Today, the Moroccan Jewish community living in Morocco does not exceed 3,000 Jews. But it's a very active community and remains one of the most strong Jewish communities in our Muslim and the Arab world, and retains also a strong relation with the 1 million Moroccan Jews living abroad. This community still have like more than 30 active synagogues. It have 4 Jewish schools, mainly in Casablanca, and preserves, thanks to His Majesty, hundreds of cemeteries and shrines. Today in Morocco, we are lucky to have the 2 only Jewish museums in the Arab world. We have the Jewish Museum of Casablanca, created by Simon Levy, late Simon Levy in 1997. And Simon Levy was one of the first supporters of Mimouna, and we have a special relationship with the Casablanca Jewish Museum. The second is the center dedicated to the historic convivencia between Jews and Muslims in Morocco, who was called Bayt al-Dakira, the House of Memory, created by His Excellency, Mr. Andrew Azoulay, and inaugurated by His Majesty in person in Estaouira a few months ago. Then Mimouna Association, created in 2007, is part of this larger movement of individual initiatives by civil society, organization, media representative, and education.
Oop. We have a freeze. So maybe Laziza.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I would like also to thank you, Peter.
We got.
Go ahead, Mehdi.
I will give you the floor, Laziza, but I just want to say and to respond to your question. You know, Mimouna was created in 2007 by a group of young Moroccan Muslims who were proud of their Islamic religion. We are proud to be Muslims by religion. We are proud to be ethnically Arab and Amazigh, but we are also Jewish by culture. Then by creating Mimouna, we are defending our diverse identity. Then in 2007, when Mimouna was founded in 2007, many people didn't understand why a group of young Moroccan Muslims will create a Jewish organization. You know, we find that there is a gap between the discourse of the old generation who talk with nostalgia about Moroccan Jews and the young generation who don't know nothing about Moroccan Judaism. Then for us, we are here to bring the gap between those generations and to show who we are. We are proud Moroccans who are proud of their diversity. Mimouna was founded in 2007 at Akhawayn University campus. Today we are in 4 different cities around Morocco, and we have many members of the Moroccan. We have many members of Mimouna everywhere in Morocco, in Tétouan, in Oujda, in all places in Morocco. And we are really proud of what we are doing. And the question is why we choose the name Mimouna. You know, the name Mimouna is a name full of meanings for Moroccans. It symbolizes a shared and common Jewish holiday, but shared also by Muslims. You know, Mimouna is celebrated traditionally at the end of Passover, and we needed the Muslim to bring the bread, the chemed, because the Jews couldn't have it in Passover. Then Muslims had an important part to be present in this Jewish holiday. And, you know, our grandparents talk with nostalgia about Moroccan Jews and about Mimouna, and we wanted to bring the positive memories, to bring back what we have as positive as Moroccan. I don't want to take too much time because I know Laziza have a lot to say, and I will give her the floor, then we can continue the discussion.
Okay, great.
The floor is yours, Laziza.
Okay, Laziza, you're up, but you got to unmute yourself. Okay. Oh, no, you're still muted. Good.
Thank you, Mehdi. I would like also to start by thanking you, Peter. Indeed, I think over the years, it's been more than 10 years that we've known each other, and since 2010 when we've met you the first time on campus when you visited Akhawayn University with your Kevonim group. and you become like family. And especially in this difficult time, you really were a great support. So I really, really want to say thank you. And I'm very grateful for your friendship. I would like also to thank Mr. Andreas Zulai, who I think was a great inspiration for us. Mehdi and I would agree that, inviting him to our first event, and the fact that he was humble enough to attend a student event in Akhawayn University from a student group, that was very inspiring, humbling, and I expressed to him my profound respect and admiration. I would like also to thank Mr. Simon Keslassi, who's been a very steady and a very supportive partner to Mimouna Association activities. Well, we started Mimouna in 2007 in Akhawayn University when we were students, as Mehdi said. But I feel like we have all personal stories why we got involved in the Mimouna Association. Well, when I joined Akhawayn University, the association was already created by Mehdi Boudra. So I joined as a member 3 months after its creation. But when I was a student in Paris, I was living in Avenue Niel, and it is a Sephardic Jewish neighborhood. And one day I was just grocery shopping, waiting for my bus, and then a senior lady came up, was looking at me very persistently. And then she came up to me and she told me that Paris was cleaner when the Germans were here. She thought I was a Sephardi girl. And she said that to me. And I didn't reply to her because I felt like, even though I wasn't a Jew, I was Muslim. And obviously, she was mistaken. But I felt like as a human being, despite our religion or ethnical background, or socioeconomical background, the fact that any other human being would dare to, come up to you, insult you because they think that you are something different or they don't understand. I felt that day that, I wanted to transform a very negative experience into something positive. So I tried to do everything I can to do that. Then I went back to Morocco. I joined Akhawayn University when I met Mehdi, and he explained his idea, his vision about Mimouna. I knew instantly that was the positive thing that I needed to do, with this experience. And I started working with Mimouna, and we organized the Moroccan Jewish Days. Basically, the entire campus we had the entire campus with, Hebraic influences. We had Jewish banners. I'm so sorry.
You're taking us on a tour, Laziza?
Yeah. I'm sorry. I apologize. I'm at my brother's, so obviously, yeah.
Okay.
Sorry. So yeah, I was saying that we started cultural events at the campus, and for the first time there was an activity organized by the student organization that we, tackled every aspect of culture. We had Hebrew banners everywhere. We had the Moroccan Jewish Museum, the Moroccan Jewish Museum of Casablanca lent us an exhibition, and we had the Muslim curator Zwar helping us, holding that exhibition at the university. We had a conference with experts, which Mr. Azulai attended. We had a music night. So we tried to tackle every aspect of culture to make sure that, every student would find something that they would relate to, and they would, go to and try to understand a little bit more about that heritage that the younger generation didn't know anything about. Then after that, most of the Mimouna projects were culturally and educationally oriented. And in 2011, with Kivunim, in partnership with Kivunim, we organized the first Holocaust conference in the Arab world, which was actually telling the story of Mohammad V and his role saving Moroccan Jews during that period from the Vichy regime. we then organized several events, movie screenings, workshops, cultural events, social events. We organized a distribution during Ramadan month to help the needy. The Jewish community, Mimouna members distributed, food packages to help the needy. So over the years, we really try to do our best, to help our community, to reach out to the younger generation, to teach them about their Jewish heritage, because we feel that, diversity should be, is a strength for Morocco and should be celebrated somehow.
So, you both use this term, our or the Moroccans' Jewish heritage as part of your heritage. Do you both understand how radical an idea that sounds to us when we hear it? In other words, people may say all kinds of things about the American Jewish community and how powerful and strong it is, but no one would ever say that the sort of think of the American Jewish community as really part of the heritage of America. It's a sidebar, or it's our own individual story about us. But we would never imagine somebody thinking of us as being sort of central to the identity of our country. We're central to our own identity. So when you describe this, first of all, was this idea acceptable, or did you face opposition? And second of all, when you talked about it, when you went home to talk with your parents and your families, what did people understand about what you were doing? How did they explain it to themselves?
I start, Laziza? Or you
Yeah, sure. Go ahead. Yeah, sure.
Okay. Of course, we find challenges in the beginning. It was in 2007, before the Moroccan Constitution of 2011. In the Moroccan Constitution, it's written that we are proud of our diversity, and Morocco is a Muslim country, Arab, Amazigh, African, and also Hebraic component. Like there is this component in the Constitution, but this is in 2011. In 2007, the situation for us at Akhawayn University was somehow different. People didn't identify themselves as the one to be Moroccan, Arab, Muslim, but they couldn't understand that we can be all that in the same time. Being like a Moroccan, it means that we respect all our diversity and to be very, it's part of us. As I told you, we are proud Muslims, we are proud Amazigh and Arabs, but we are also Jewish by culture. We do many Jewish stuff and we don't know why. And why, I will tell you why my family reaction on that. My father he was not against, but he was afraid as a young Moroccan Muslim for my future in a Muslim country to defend a minority. It's something challenging. But my mom was very supportive. As I told you, the inspiration to create Mimouna for me came from my grandmother. And as I told you, I had a strong grandmother, a grandmother who was born in Boutouil, in the Melah of Casablanca. In her street, they were one of the few Muslim families living in the street. When she was born, her mom could not feed her because she didn't have milk, and to breastfeed her. Then she all the time told me, I have a Jewish mom called Wali and a Jewish sister called Sarah. And when she told me that, here milk is like blood. You cannot marry your brother of milk or your sister of milk. Then for us, it's part of us in my family, and we are she was talking about Moroccan Judaism with nostalgia, and she was doing many things and using many words that we didn't know. For example, when she wanted to make the big cleaning, she say, I'm going to do Pesach. For me, what is Pesach? It's because all their neighborhood, the Jewish neighborhood in her street, were cleaning their house before Pesach to remove the chametz. Then for them, the Muslims who were living in neighborhoods, also they wanted to clean their houses. Then they say we are doing Pesach. For them, cleaning, it means Pesach. Then those few words and this identity, we are not here to lose it. And our generation is here to fight, to reclaim this Jewish heritage that we have. We know that we have only one small Jewish community of 3,000 people, but those 3,000 people are like 300,000 people. It's a small community, but very active in all cities. In Fez, in Essaouira, in Marrakesh, in Rabat, in all cities, they are struggling and they are fighting, and they need us Muslims to be in their side. And this is the role of Mimouna, and the role of our organization is to reclaim our heritage as part of the identity of Morocco.
Oh. Laziza, you want to add something to that?
Yeah, I agree with Mehdi. I think the Jewish tradition culture is deeply rooted, intricated into the Moroccan fabric. Therefore, yeah, people would do Jewish things without even realizing it. And I remember in the first Moroccan Jewish day, when people went to the cafeteria and they had the food catered by the Jewish caterer. They're like, but this is very similar to what we eat at home. Or when we had the musical night, the Maxim Carucci was singing very popular song, and they were like, well, this is the song we hear in our weddings. Therefore, people would, understand the similarities between the Jewish tradition and the Muslim tradition, and they would understand that actually they were Moroccan, and that these two traditions in the Moroccan culture, they were intricated.
So if you can sort of take this and tell us a little bit about okay, we now understand about the two of you and your feelings. When you took this idea out onto campus and now all these years later, what happens when other people hear this idea? In other words, do they attack you? Do they support you? What's the response?
Well, go ahead, Mehdi.
No, go ahead, Liz.
Well, at first, I think people didn't understand. They were intrigued, and they didn't understand why two Muslim students would be interested into, reaching out to their peers about Jewish heritage. We had like some, I think, I don't know how to qualify that, but we had the swastika that was drawn on Mehdi Dorm's room. They would call him the rabbi of Akhawayn. But I feel like after we hold our first event and they got a sense of what Moroccan Judaism is and how it is rooted in the Moroccan tradition, I mean, we didn't face that much backlash from students. But after the conference on the Holocaust, some people were, especially in the Arab media, they were attacking the university for holding such event. And of course, the university was not really happy with the Mehdi and I at that time. But other than that, I don't think we faced any serious backlash.
I want to add to Laziza what she said. When we started in 2007, people didn't understand our initiative. This was the problem, not only from the students, but also from the university administration, not the president. The president, Mr. Belmokhtar, who is the former Minister of Education, was very supportive of our initiative, but the middle management didn't understand the kind of initiative that we are creating. It was something new. And when you have some new ideas, it's making people afraid. It's not only the students. These small things that happen, stereotypes, jokes, it was just for students, it was just the beginning, because we knew that they have some dust in their memories, and we needed to do some work to remove this dust so they can at least remember and go and to talk with their grandparents about this Moroccan identity and this Jewish heritage that we are proud of. This was few challenges, but now we work easily in the campus. We don't have any issue in the campus. We grow. We made activities all over of Morocco. We organized more than 120 events in cities in all over Morocco: Tangier, Rabat, Casablanca, Essaouira, Marrakesh, Saleh, Kanitra, Fes, Rabat, Fes Meknes, Ifrane, all over Morocco. Then it's not only in big cities. We had the chance to go everywhere, and we knew that Moroccans, the people who are supportive, are the majority. Of course, there is a minority who will criticize everywhere. And every time you will find someone who will be critical to you. But you should just know how to deal with them and know how to explain to them and know how to challenge their perception of things.
Laziza, you want to add anything?
I think Mehdi was very eloquent on what he said. People, once they got used accustomed to the idea, and they actually were exposed to that culture through movie screenings, through cultural events, through academic conferences. They would understand. I mean, I always advocate for education. I feel like when people understand, it's building a bridge. It's helping people accept the other culture, and also deal with it in a more deal with the diversity in a more positive way.
So when you look now at you passed a decade of time. So do you feel an impact? In other words, do you feel a change has taken place as a result of your work?
I think, of course, yes. Our impact, it's like a puzzle, as I told you. It's a puzzle, and everyone is doing its part of it here in Morocco. The Moroccan government is trying to do its best to promote the Jewish heritage in Morocco. The Jewish community is doing its best, but civil society is playing a key role through like the creation of museums of Casablanca, but also the initiative in Essaouira of the Festival des Andalusies Atlantiques, and through art is also like doing a big impact. There is also movie makers who made like also like Mr. Kamal Hashkar and others who made a lot to promote that. Then Mimouna is part of this puzzle, and we are bringing part of what we are doing in Morocco. And today Mimouna succeeded in Morocco. Why we knew it? Because we have other people from outside of Morocco who want to join Mimouna. We have people in the Arab world who want to. Then we see Mimouna, the future of Mimouna, as a network of Arabs and Muslims who are interested in the Jewish heritage of the Arab world and of the Muslim world. Mimouna started in Morocco, but it can be a regional initiative, and where we can bring other people, young people who are interested on the Jewish heritage to work together. And we have the coronavirus. Coronavirus is a challenge, but in the same time, it can be an opportunity to use new technology, to use those webinars to attract new people to our NGO. We organize webinars every 2 weeks. And every 2 weeks, we have more people coming from different backgrounds. And our message is going outside of Morocco. And I think this is a good opportunity.
Could you talk a little bit about, by the way, just let me say to the whole audience, if you have any questions, put them into the chat. And in a few minutes, we'll start taking questions from you. My follow-up question to Mehdi and Laziza is, when we took our trip with your friends and you to Israel, what was that like? How did that happen from your point of view? I know what it felt like from my point of view, but from your point of view, what was that all about? And what were the repercussions for yourselves personally and for Mimouna as a result of that trip?
Our trip to Israel and Palestine was very important. We had the chance, thanks to Kivunim, to bring young Moroccan Muslims based in Bet Shemuel in Jerusalem. We had the chance to go to Ramallah and we meet with the Palestinian Authority. We had the chance to go to IDC Herzliya and we meet with students. We had also the chance to go to kibbutz. Then what we have done, and this visit was challenging in many subjects, because in Mimouna we try to avoid talking about political. We are a cultural NGO, and we organize many events related to the Moroccan Jewish heritage. We organized an event, the first conference about the Holocaust. We have a program about the Holocaust. We were criticized, but the taboo is the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Here in Morocco, as an NGO, we think of the justice to have two states, of a Palestinian state near to a secure Israeli state, and like to live together. And Morocco played an important role in mediation between Arabs and the Israeli state. I think this is the legacy. And by chance, we were created in Ifrane. In Ifrane, where everything happened. I don't know why, but this place have something to share with the world. Like, it's a small city, but many things started in the 80s there. And I think Mimouna was created luckily there in 2007, then we want to share our message. We don't forget the Moroccan diaspora living in cities like Ashdod, those Moroccans who are proud of their Moroccanness. Then it was something very difficult. In the beginning, we were bringing 20 students. At the airport, we were 16. It shows how people were not afraid, but they were like, they needed like to understand what is happening there. By visiting, when we arrived to Jerusalem, we felt something very strong. Jerusalem is a holy city for those three religions: Christians, Muslim, and Jewish. We're based where Kivunim are staying in Beit Shmuel. We have a magnificent view on the old city. We had the chance to go to Al-Aqsa Mosque to pray Friday in Al-Aqsa Mosque. It was something that it's a dream for many Moroccan Muslims to go and to pray to Al-Aqsa Mosque. Then we had realized this challenge and to have to pray there. But we were like also lucky to meet and to be, when you see any Moroccan, everyone was proud to meet with us. Everyone want to speak with us. And this is like what makes Morocco unique. The uniqueness of Morocco, we felt it in Jerusalem. We were like invited by Palestinians, by Arab Israelis, by Israelis, Ashkenazi, Sephardic. All were proud to meet with us and to discuss with Muslim Moroccans visiting Jerusalem.
Is there a lasting impact? In other words, is there anything of that experience that I understand that you're non-political, but in a world in which we live, it's hard to be purely non-political. So is there any lasting impact of that experience?
Of course, like it was like, why those 4 people didn't go, in your opinion, Peter? Because their parents were afraid, they didn't let them come, or they were afraid to go there because it's a zone of conflict. But in reality, it's a place of tension, a place where there is like many things. For example, we didn't know that 20% of Israelis are Arabs. We didn't know that 20% of the population is living as citizens of the Israeli state. And they are Muslims, Druze, or Christians. And they are proud of their Arabness, but in the same time, they are proud Israeli citizens. This is something that we didn't know, and this is something that changed our perceptions in many things. And we are also proud to see like the 800,000 Moroccan Jews living in Israel, and who are proud to be Moroccans. When we visited Hassan II Square in Ashdod, and we made like the Moroccan national anthem with the Moroccan Jewish citizens, and we sung the anthem there. Like it's, many stereotypes that we had changed during this visit.
By the way, as I recall, it was a stereotype certainly that I had as well was changed, because when we got to this city of Ashdod to visit the Israeli Moroccan Jews, we discovered that there were 2 streets in Ashdod, one named Rehov HaMelech Mohammed HaChamishi and one named Rehov HaMelech Hassan HaSheni, King Mohammed V Street and King Hassan II Street in an Israeli city. And I never knew that existed. And to this day, when I think about it, I realize how astounding that was, that trip was a breakdown for all of us, I think, of stereotype, for sure. Laziza, what do you remember? And what's the impact? We can't hear you.
Well, actually, that's a great example on how education is important, to understand the other, because this is the way, to have positive relations with people. When we traveled to Israel, I didn't know anything about Israel. All I knew is the biased information conveyed in the media. So I didn't have any information about Israel. So when I went there, yes, Mehdi was right. The first thing that I was surprised with is Arab Israelis. I didn't know that there were any Arab Israelis in Israel. I thought it was only a Jewish state. So it was really a discovery for me to see that diversity and how well they were managing their diversity. I mean, we've met with some Arab Israelis in Haifa, and I've seen how well integrated they were in the Israeli society. Yes, that was a very impactful trip in a way that I did understand that there were a difference between the political level and the human level. Like at the human level, we went to a kibbutz where they were training Palestinian doctors, and you can see the solidarity between people there. And I was really, really impressed to see that on the grassroots, people were actually showing solidarity towards another, and there were very great initiatives to help each other. And of course, I think that was a moment that I understood that, you know, situation can be more complex than we think. And it was an eye-opening to understand that there was like that human level, but also that political level. And the fact that I realized that, I was like, the Israelis are actually nice people. And I started having like Israeli friends, and, you know, I feel like that trip taught me about how the country is I mean, it made me understand a little bit more about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, because when you're not there, you don't understand it, and you only have biased media. It's not, you cannot have an objective opinion on it. Going there, I mean, it gives you some legitimacy that maybe I can't pretend that I know that I'm an expert in Israeli politics or history, but at least you have a glimpse and you have some legitimacy to say, well, I went there and I've seen like on the grassroots what people are doing and how much solidarity they are showing to each other. And politics are politics, they are what they are.
When you came back, both of you, I guess I really should ask both before you went and certainly when you came back. It's one thing to create an organization like you've created to study the authentic piece of Moroccan Jewish heritage, although it still sounds like a radical idea to me. But when you came back from a trip to Israel, or you went home and told your parents that you had been invited to participate in something like this, what was the reaction? And today,
Well,
years later, like, you know, what's the fallout from that, or the positive?
well, my mom, go ahead, Mehdi.
No, go ahead.
Well, my mom, of course, she was like, it's a conflict area, so she was, of course, scared. She wasn't really excited to see me travel there. You know, my dad, he was proud of me.
Proud of you.
Yeah.
For me, I didn't tell my dad that I'm going till like I was going to the airport. This is the reality. But with my mom, she was very supportive, and she told me you should bring your sister with you. Then I told her, no, my sister, no, like it's enough me. I'm going there. There is many taboos and many things, and we should be frank. Here in Morocco, there is no, like, people are supportive of the Jewish people of Israel, but in the same time, they are very supportive of the Palestinian cause. And it's important for Moroccans to know that there will be a future of a Palestinian state. And this is something that's challenging for all members of Mimouna. And this is where the question that people are asking. If you go to Israel, you are normalizing relation with Israel. However, you went to Palestine and you meet with the Palestinian Authority, it's not enough. And here there is a big support of the Palestinian cause here in Morocco, which not mean that there is a problem with Israel. And this is where we should understand it. We can be pro like a state of Israel, but in the same time for a Palestinian state.
But by the way, I want to make sure everybody understands this was not a UJA trip to Israel. We basically made sure that that our Moroccan guests saw the positive and the negative. They met with Israeli Arabs, as Laziza described, who showed the real positive integration of the Arab citizens of the State of Israel. But we also met with Israeli Arabs who were felt and expressed their sense of being discriminated against. We went to Ramallah. We met with the first secretary of the foreign ministry, who today is a member of the Palestinian delegation at the UN. We met with the mayor of Ramallah. We went to the Yasser Arafat Memorial. We made sure that it was a real experience that was not one-sided. And therefore, when you hear the reaction, it's important to understand that this was not a propaganda. Excuse me. This was not a propaganda trip. So I think we should turn to, if we've got some questions from the audience, let's take a few moments. Danny, do we have any questions? And if those of you who have been listening have a question, please put it into the chat.
So we had one question, but I think it was mostly answered already, certainly by Mehdi. Ken asks, as was said, the Jewish presence in Morocco goes back to antiquity. Is your interest and involvement in establishing Mimouna connected at all to a feeling or knowledge that you have Jewish family in your past?
As I told you, it's coming from a personal story. As I told you, it's my grandmother's story, who was born in Boutouil in the Melah of Casablanca, who let me know, because for me, I knew I had positive image about Moroccan Jews. But when I went to university, I find this gap and the stereotypes that many young Moroccan Muslims had on Jews in the campus. Then I said, okay, in my small scale, I can do something because, the older people knew Moroccan Jews. There were 300,000 Jews. Today, there is only 3,000 Jews. Then it means that those young people, they never meet with any Jew. And I can tell you, till 2008 in our campus, I can say 99% of the students never meet with any Jew. And the Moroccan Jewish days were the first opportunity to meet with Jews. And that's why we had all Moroccan Jews coming from different cities, from Fez, from Casablanca, Rabat, Marrakesh, and Meknes, to come to the campus and to meet with those students. And they were like, okay, they are like us. We are one people. We are Moroccan. And bringing young people, I think the first group who came to the campus by young Jews were Kivunim in 2010. There were a group of 60 young American Jewish students coming to visit Akhawayn University campus and to meet with hundreds of Moroccan Muslim students. And it was like something really fascinating. And this is the meeting that I had with Peter. And this day I came to him and I asked him, please, can we organize the first conference on the Holocaust in the Arab world? And Peter said yes. He understood, Peter, he's a young man. He's a young man till today. And he's a man of the youth. And he understands what the young people wanted and what they need. And we are lucky to have Mr. Andrew Azul and Mr. Peter Geffen, who are really people who understand the youth. And this is what is missing today. We need people who give us the opportunity to speak up, to say what we think, to say our ideas, and to encourage us on what we are doing. Because many people won't encourage you when you are 18 years old. Few people will say yes and will follow you and will support you, whatever you do. And Simon Levy also was one of those supporters who understood us, and he didn't want to change us. When you support young people, don't change them, because they will respect you and they will be like people, their truth. Like there are people who are doing things from the heart, and they will give, for example, Mimouna members are giving 13 years of their energy and all of that because they trust what they are doing and they want to be the same since day one.
Andre, would you like to say a few words about your own experience with Mimouna and with Mehdi and Laziza?
Yes, but please don't hesitate to cut the mic if I'm too long. But I just want to say once again my admiration, my friendship, and my gratitude to Laziza and to Mehdi. And I'm not saying that to please them. I feel it so deeply. from the very beginning. And the first day we met, and I remember Laziza on the floor in New York when I was awarded, and she delivered a speech. It was one of the moments which really was the most important for me in my long travel in my life. And also listening to Mehdi first time. But let me, to be short, let me just add, because listening to Mehdi and Laziza, I want to make them more comfortable and to try just to name things. Being in Israel and expressing their solidarity with the Palestinian people, and telling also the Israelis that the best way to understand and to maybe make Israel safer for the new generation, the future generation, is to give a chance to peace. I mean, having the possibility to spread this Moroccan experience, this Moroccan lesson, especially in Israel or in the Jewish circles, is important to be as close as possible to the real life. I'm sure that Laziza and Mehdi feel the same way than I feel myself as a Moroccan, caring for the Palestinian people. I have no problem to express it, to say it clearly, publicly, and naming it. If I am just a normal human being, and more than that, being educated as a Jewish person, I cannot be silent or just watch what is going on in Palestine and not able to express my solidarity with the Palestinian people. It's obvious. And it's not hurting anyone, especially the Israelis or the Jews. In the contrary, feel free to name it. Feel free to say it. It's our way to be a human citizen and a world citizen in Morocco. I mean, just if I may say, Laziza and Mehdi, I was usually, maybe I was wrong, but when I introduce Mimouna, the Mimouna Club, or one of you, I'm saying that you are my fellow compatriot as a Moroccan, and you have taken this outstanding historical step by just saying we want to retake over of the Jewish part of our identity, of our history, of our legacy, of our culture, of our social life. It's obvious, but I mean, it's unprecedented. I have experienced the same way. By the first day I decided, and it was maybe younger than you were when you started Mimouna Club, to retake over of the Arab part of my identity, of the Berber part of my legacy. First of all, it's the reality. It's true. It's not something we invented or we created just to use to be pleased by anyone or to say we are good guys, good girls. And no. I mean, our DNA in Morocco, I mean, someone, I think it's Daniel, who asked you, I mean, about your DNA, or if you were enough, I mean, if you ask about your DNA, if there is any Jewish part in it. I have done the same. I have an Arab part in my DNA. But I didn't need it to have this scientific answer to feel an Arab or a Berber as a Moroccan and Jewish. So the day you created Mimouna, I wrote some article about it. I attended so many conferences trying to explain how important was this initiative. But I said, there are younger fellow Muslim compatriots of mine who have decided to retake over of the Jewish part of their identity and history. It as clear cut than that. The same for the Palestinians and the Israelis. I mean, I am, as a Moroccan, I know that I am coherent with my own, my people, when I'm trying to give a chance to peace and to try to help having two states equal in justice, in freedom, in dignity, living side by side. I mean, Israel and the state of Palestine. I will not attend any vote from the UN or anyone else by recognizing the legitimacy and the real true existence of the Palestinian nation and people, not against anyone, but to live side by side with Israel. It was Shimon Peres who have said so many times that, I mean, the issue is this conflict between two national movements, the Jewish one and the Palestinian one. I mean, it's history. It happens in so many places in the world, but it ended with the same conclusion. We have to sit together, to live together, and to try to take advantage of history to find the best way to give or to build a future for our children. So please, Mehdi and Laziza, I mean, you have not to, I mean, don't abstain to name things. It's good that you have experienced this visit. By this visit in Israel, you know more, you know how to explain this very complex situation and feel relaxed and feel comfortable if you said that you are also committed to give a chance to a Palestinian state living side by side with Israel. Is the best way to help the future generation of young Palestinians emerging, and the same in Israel. There is no other way. So, but thank you to Peter for giving me a chance just to ask this.
So Andre is going to radicalize you. So we're reaching towards the end of our session. I want to give you both a chance to say anything you'd like to say in conclusion. And then I hope all of you will stay on for a couple of moments, because I want to tell you about what's coming next week, which is really a very logical and powerful follow through to what we opened up this week with regard to Morocco. Mehdi, Laziza?
I want to thank you, Peter, for organizing this evening. And we look forward organizing the Limud 2021 in Essaouira next year, where we'll have the chance to discuss all topics in a way. You know, we had only 1 hour to discuss something very important to his Moroccan Judaism and like the diversity of Moroccan identity, but also to speak about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. You know, and I think this is a good beginning to start this discussion and to make the circle much bigger with other friends.
Great, thank you, Mehdi. Laziza?
Peter, I would like to thank you for holding this distinguished event, which, as usual, Kivunim does. I'm really proud that you invited Mimouna to participate to this event and speak about Moroccan Judaism and Moroccan tradition of coexistence. And I feel like this is important for people to see that there is a synergy in Morocco where there is the grassroots working toward this coexistence, as well as the states, the government, NGOs. So there is a real willingness in Morocco to have this synergy, harmony towards saying the same thing, that we are an inclusive society who is prone to the positive values of coexistence.
Convivencia.
Convivencia, that's the word that I like.
So I just want to say a couple of things in conclusion. First of all, of course, I want to thank you El Mehdi and Laziza for participating, and I'm always deeply moved and inspired every time I talk to you two, which is often. Andre, it's such an honor to have you both on Monday to present and to participate today and to really represent what I said about you on Monday, which is that you have such a natural and enormous respect for young people. And it's very important that we hear that from someone like you, who easily could look aside to those who are younger and just stay focused in the universe in which you travel. It's a remarkable example for all of us, and we're deeply honored by your presence. On Monday, we're going to have a presentation which I really hope not only will you all come to, but that you'll bring others to, by a remarkable woman named Sarab Abu Rabia. Sarab Abu Rabia is an Israeli Bedouin. She is the first Bedouin woman PhD. She has a PhD in sociology. Her grandfather was a Bedouin sheikh living on the desert sands. Her father was the first Bedouin doctor in the state of Israel, and clearly one of the first Bedouin doctors anywhere in the world. And she and her sister are these two really remarkable people. Her sister Rawia is a lawyer, an actual PhD in law, who goes into the Israeli courts to fight against the sort of patriarchal traditions of her own people. But Sarab has a tremendous message to talk about, to understand what is it to be a minority in a country that was made up by people who were always a minority. And it's important for us to hear. She is, as I said earlier, an example of an agent of social change. Next Thursday, we're actually going to devote ourselves on what is Tisha B'Av afternoon to an open mic and open discussion amongst people who have been in the program. And then the following week, we will hear from, again, another giant of contemporary Israeli thought, a woman, Amal Al-Sani, who is really a extraordinary human being, now heading the ICANN Center at McGill University. A week from next Thursday, 2 weeks from today, we will have a session with Saeed Abu Shakra, who is the creator of the art gallery of al-Faham, one of the largest villages in the Arab sector of Israel, and again, one of these really unique, magnificent human beings. The following week, we will hear finally from Rabbi Hanan Schlesinger, who is an Orthodox rabbi living in the occupied territories, who has built a remarkable organization called Roots Shorashim, in conjunction with his Palestinian neighbors, a vision of the future. And by next week, you'll hear about our plans for the rest of August, which are equally exciting. And I hope you'll join with us. Last thing I want to say to our audience is this. As you know, in the American situation, young Americans are having a real rough time looking to college next year. Colleges have claimed that they would open. Now they're indicating that they're closed. They have to look to a year either as freshmen or upperclassmen as being on Zoom. Kivunim's program will exist next year as in the past, starting in January, continuing into the summer. Our international travel will be in May and into the summer months, when we expect that there will be maybe a vaccine, certainly some medications and cures. And we're offering to enrolled students an intensive language program in Arabic and Hebrew in the months of October, November, and December. Why do I tell you all this? Because I hope that you will turn to your own grandchildren, children, neighbors, etc., and let them know that Kivunim is making room for as many young people as we can accommodate next year in order to respond to what really is an emergency situation for our young people with no place to turn. And we hope you'll spread that word. We'll send some materials out to you this week. And we want to respond. We want to be there. And we're even seriously considering opening up a section of our program for upper class men and women who just don't want to go back to campus and be on Zoom. So it's important that you know all of that. And Danny, you have anything else you want to add before we close?
I just wanted to offer anyone who has not officially registered for the following sessions you can send me a note in this chat with your email address, and we'll make sure that you're notified of the next coming sessions that Peter has just mentioned.
And I guess I want to also encourage you to go to the resource page on kivunimonline.org. In this particular week, we have remarkable materials. We have a copy of King Mohammad VI's statement on the Holocaust, which, if you've never seen it, will simply blow you away. You will not imagine that could be a more powerful statement about the Shoah than that statement issued by the Moroccan Muslim king King Mohammad VI. We have a copy of his statement on anti-Semitism, issued at a conference on anti-Semitism sponsored by UNESCO a year and a half, 2 years ago. We have a document that the king wrote and presented to
Peter, we're losing you.
I'm sorry?
Your audio just cut out.
Is it still there?
No, you're back. You're back.
Okay. We have a document that was written by the king and presented to Kivunim in 2015 on the occasion of our paying tribute in New York City to the memory of Mohammed V. We have the film that Mehdi alluded to by Kamal Hashkar, a beautiful film that all of you should see. The resources are rich. Take advantage of them and allow yourself to really grow in this territory, which you've spent some wonderful time this afternoon hearing about. Thank you all very much. We're delighted to have you, and we look forward to seeing you on Monday.
Thanks, Peter.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
This was great. Thanks a lot.
You're welcome, Ethan. Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Bye, Peter.
Bye, Andre. We should talk.
Great. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye, Mr. Adzalai. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mehdi, Laziza, thank you so much. This is wonderful.
Bye, Simon. Okay, shall I end?
Yeah, I think we've gotten all
Just
of
about
you.
everybody, right?
Yep.
Okay.